Hastings Fiberglass. Bill's here to talk about care and maintenance of hot sticks. Go to it, Bill.
All right, thank you. Am I on? Okay. To start off with, the care and maintenance of a hot stick has changed over the years, and you end up with a lot of linemen that just assume that the stick is always in a good condition when they go to use it. That's not always true. There's contaminants that could be on your stick. It could be on there the day after you do a care and maintenance cleaning. So before you ever use any hot stick or any fiberglass arm or any fiberglass tool, I would recommend taking a silicone impregnated cloth or a disposable type silicone cloth and wipe your stick down. That's going to get off any dust or dirt or contaminants that may be on there. It also helps displace moisture on there. Another thing, when you're using telescopic sticks like this in the rain, which I get used a lot in a storm, when you're putting it away, let it run through a silicone impregnated cloth. These are reusable. So as you have this telescoped up, just let it come down. If it's wet, just let it come down through a silicone cloth like this as it retracts. And that'll help get off some of that moisture and keep some of that moisture from getting inside of the stick. Moisture inside of your stick on a telescopic stick like this is probably the biggest reason you're going to have a failure during your electrical testing. So this, as these triangle sticks will let you take it apart. If you have a problem with moisture inside, this will help it to air out. So I'm going to start here at the beginning. If I have I'm going to do care and maintenance on a stick, whether it's inclement weather day or this is my scheduled routine. Let's say you're going to do this once a year at your utility. To start off with, what I want to do with any piece of fiberglass that I'm going to do maintenance on is I want to test it. This is something that people that call me all the time, and this is the first thing I always tell them, is test your stick before you clean it so you know what you're trying to do as you clean it. If I clean this stick and then go through the whole process and test it later and now it's not passing, I don't know if it's because of something I did or if it's something that was already on the stick. Always use manufacturer-approved cleaners, hot stick manufacturer-approved cleaners. You don't want to use Windex 409, brake cleaner, anything like that. So to test this stick, this is a hot stick tester, have it on dry right now, and I'm just going to find out if this hot arm is good right now. And you can't really see it on here, but this is reading about 10 microamps of leakage current, which is well within the pass. But this stick, this has been used, it's not brand new. So now I'm going to go ahead and do some maintenance on this, but I know I have a hot arm here that already passes. Same on this, if I'm going to test this stick, or clean this stick, I'm going to test it first. And I can see here I'm getting about 3, which is well within the passing range. So that's a good stick. So to do my care and maintenance on this, I know that I'm not really trying to get off much in contaminants. I'm not going to mess with the inside of a stick that's already passing, because when you start putting moisture inside, you introduce moisture where you don't want any. So if this stick here is already passing, being a hollow stick, it's already passing, so I don't have to do anything to the inside of this. I'm just going to take care of the outside and make sure it's going to pass a wet test later. Two different types of tests that this tester will allow you to do is a dry, which is 100 kV per foot, and a wet, which is 75 kV per foot. Are you guys familiar with electrical testing on sticks? Okay. So this allows you, the one that you're going to be required to do is going to be the wet one. The one the manufacturer does is a dry test at 100. As we produce a fiberglass, we test it all like that. The fiberglass we produce is impenetrable. Anyway, nothing's going to get in there unless it's cracked, broken. If you see something on the outside, it's not going to wick. It's not going to go to the inside. It's on the outside, you can clean it off. Any contaminants you have on the fiberglass is either going to be on the outside or on the inside. It's not going to be in the fiberglass. So the fiberglass, in effect, does not go bad unless it starts to delaminate. We have an all-purpose cleaner here that we use and a non-metallic abrasive pad. So I don't know if you can see there's some black marks on here. I'm going to just spray my cleaner on. Put a little on my pad. And I can just go to work scrubbing this up. If I don't get all of the marks off, is it a big deal right now? It's not. I already tested it, and I know that that's not a contaminated mark, right? So part of me testing this early is letting me know that I don't need to sit here and scour and scour and scour until it's clean. Now, if this failed, then I'm going to work on a small area and see what I had to do to that small area to get it to pass, and then I'll do that to the rest of it. So on here, I'm just going to cosmetically make it look better. I'll dry this off. And it looks better. There's still a couple little black marks. You're going to get those on there that are just too hard to get off, and they're not worth the time you're going to put into it right now. But I know it passed before. It's going to pass again. Now that I've taken an abrasive and scrubbed this down, I have to re-wax this because I do not want water to sheet on this. Especially an arm like this is going to be left out there for a period of 2-3 weeks, maybe a couple months. I really need this to be protected from the elements. So anytime you do a cleaning on any stick, anytime you do any kind of scrubbing like that, you're going to want to take a wax and apply a wax to the outside of it. Now, a lot of times I get questions on our wax. Guys will ask me, what's the difference between this and a car wax? The only answer I can tell you is I don't know. We don't go test Eagle One. We don't test Mother's, McGuire's. We don't test everybody else's wax. This wax is made for this. It's non-conductive, so when you put it on, it's not going to cause a problem. You can just wipe it on. And wipe it off. Now, one thing that you're always going to want to do after you do any kind of cleaning, maintenance, anything to your stick is now you want to do the wet test. The wet test is the one for the lineman. The wet test is the one that says when I use this in the rain, I'm still safe. And what you want to use is just regular water. It doesn't have to be distilled, although we recommend it. We don't really want you testing the minerals in the water, so try to get distilled water if you can, but this is just tap water. And you spray your stick down until it has visible beading water on there. This water is going to run off because of all the wax I just put on. But if I had a stick that didn't have wax on there and I just scraped it down, the water would kind of sheet. As it sheets, it's going to connect. That's going to cause a path for electricity. Set this to the wet test. I zero my meter back out to 0. And I lay this on here. And I'm actually getting a reading here of 2 microamps, which if you remember earlier, I was getting about, what was it, like 15 or 10 microamps on a dry. So now that I've cleaned it, even with water on there, this is better than when I got it. All right. Let me address a couple of misconceptions that everybody has in the world and seems to be pretty prevalent here in Canada. How many of you guys have heard that if a stick is not foam filled, it is not insulated? Anybody? Nobody? That's not true. The fiberglass is insulated. The entire stick is tested. So if I have a 40-foot stick, that 40-foot stick is tested 100 kV per foot for 40 feet. So you have, what, 4 million volt, or whatever that works out to? So this entire stick is part of your insulation. If you're running this up there on a telescopic pole, and I have a 5-foot section at the top and the rest of this is hollow, that doesn't mean I only have a 5-foot stick. I have, however long there is between my hands and whatever's energized, that's what I'm using as a stick. My minimum approach distance is going to be counted on how far I am away on the fiberglass, not by how much foam filled I have. Also on something like this, or on this type of stick, if you have a piece of metal in the center, let's say this is a splice stick. Have you guys ever seen those? Where you have a stick that may have a metal splice in the middle. That metal splice in the middle does not mean that everything above it does not count, or everything below it does not count as insulation. If I have a piece of metal to here, let's say this paper towel is a metal splice. When I go through and I test this stick, if I test it and it's good, all the way down to here, here's 4.5 feet of good stick, this metal part is not going to pass. I go back down here and I have another 4.5 good feet. That's 9 feet. I have 9 feet of good insulated fiberglass on there. That means that when I'm down here, all that 9 feet counts. That little piece of metal in the middle does not mean that it doesn't count. On a telescopic stick, if you end up with dirt in the joints, water in the joints, and you have, 6-inch area in here that you can't get to pass because it has moisture or dirt in there, that's okay. That stick is still usable. Every one of those gaps in between that where it's not passing adds together. Okay? How much time do I have? Okay. So on a hot arm, one of the biggest questions I get on these, and this is why I have this up here, is do we have to test this? Have you guys ever ran across that? The determination of whether you have to test a stick or not is if you're using it as a live line tool or not. A live line tool, what makes that a live line tool is if I'm using this to protect myself from whatever that voltage is on the line, then this is a live line tool. If I'm working on 15 kV and I have 20 kV rubber gloves on, this is not being used as a live line tool. This tool could be made out of aluminum, agree? So this, in that case, is not being used as a live line tool. So according to all the government agencies, I would not have to test it because my rubber gloves are my primary source of protection. But you and I both know if I'm a lineman and I have a 10 or 20 foot stick in here, a lot of times that stick's going to be right in here, across my belt, under my arm, whatever I have to do to hold the weight on the end of that. So I want to make sure that I have an insulated stick, even though I'm wearing rubber gloves. I don't have a rubber suit on, and it's easy enough to test a stick with a hot stick tester, portable like this. You can use it in the shop on rain days to know that you have a good stick. So on the hot arm, most of the time when you hang this on the pole, you're going to be wearing rubber gloves. So you could say it's not a live line tool. This is probably the biggest gray area tool we have. So you could say this is not a live line tool, but as soon as I put my conductors in here, this is good, this is rated for 35 kV. As soon as I put my conductors in here and I'm working on this arm, the only thing between me and that conductor is this fiberglass and that wood crossarm that I mounted this to. So I want to know that this is insulated. I want to know that this can be used as a live line tool because I do count on this as a lineman. Same with my link stick, same with things that may not be long enough to be considered a hot line tool. I can test anything that's 6 inches with this, okay? Another thing on this tester, it has relays in here that'll turn itself off, so right now it's on, and this actually puts out 2,500 volts. Everything's at a 40-to-1 ratio, but if I breach this, all I get is a little tiny shock, and the meter locks out. I have to turn it off, it resets, and turn it back on. There's no danger in using this. Okay, I have 2 minutes left. Does anybody have any questions? No. Okay. As far as these tools right here, this one is not foam filled, it's solid fiberglass. Before I use this out on the pole, all I want to do is wipe this down. If I know that it's electrically sound because I can do a test on it, that's better, but I want to wipe this down. What normally happens, guys get this off, they pull it off the arm, they drive the bucket down, take the bucket as close as they can to the trailer that's hooked up to the back of it, and off it goes, right? We've all seen that. Eyes get bent up, things get chipped up. So when you put these up in the air, really inspect them. This is just made out of aluminum castings. They're 150-pound rated, but that's when they're not cracked from being thrown. So you always want to inspect this before you put it up. It's going to be up there for a while. It's going to be up there in winds and storms. It's going to be up there in rain. So you want to put a coat of wax on them every once in a while. Probably one of the most abused pieces of tool we have. Okay? That's it. Thank you very much, guys. Thanks for clapping.